President Biden is telling Americans that prices on everything will fall over time, but his approval rating just fell again right before the midterms. NTD's Iris Tao has more from the White House.
With less than 2 weeks left before the midterms, President Biden again tells Americans that he's working on fighting high costs.
I'm optimistic. It's going to take some time, and I appreciate the frustration of the American people.
Today's focus was on eliminating so-called junk fees from banks and credit card companies, such as late fees and surprise overdraft fees. While they may seem small, Biden says they add up.
And these steps will immediately start saving Americans collectively billions of dollars in unfair fees, giving them, as my dad would say again, just a little breathing room.
And Biden's been using that breathing room phrase pretty often recently, trying to send a message that his party understands what everyday Americans are facing. But not everyone is buying it. Republican Congressman Pat Fallon on Wednesday called Biden's vow to lower costs a bold-faced lie, saying he's just, quote, putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Yet Biden defends his economic record by citing a recent drop in gas prices.
The most common price right now in America is $3.39 a gallon. It's going to come down more.
But there's some bad news for Biden. A Gallup poll released Wednesday shows his approval ratings has dropped to 40%, retreating from a modest recovery in August. And that's no good news for Democrats either, as they're fighting to hold majorities in the upcoming midterms. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And next up to discuss the distinct contrast between the two parties, we have Texas Congressman Brian Babin. Congressman Brian Babin, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Congressman, a lot of races throughout the country. You have one yourself in Texas. A Democrat is running against you there. What do you think are going to be some of the key issues that separate the two of you on policy?
You know, I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime such a distinct contrast between the Republicans and the Democratic parties. Certainly going back, pre-Reagan, we've had differences, certainly, but never to this extent. We have a woke, politically correct, pro-radical, left, everything you can think of, socialistic Democrat Party that wants to weaken America, wants to just make us an also-ran country, if you will, open borders, crime, letting people out of jail, you name it, versus somebody, our party believes in strong traditional values, our Constitution, the rule of law, closed and secure borders, and when criminals are absolutely held to account, not letting them off, not letting people out of jail, not excusing people from paying their debts and leaving it on the shoulders of the American taxpayers, like this forgiveness of student debt. Over and over again, we've seen the Democrats prioritize climate change over national security, over the prosperity of the American taxpayer. It is incredible. And I think the American people know what's been going on. They can, every time they go to the grocery store, fill up their gas tanks, have to worry about criminals in their communities, and seeing the millions of illegal aliens swarming into our country. I think they know what's going on, and parents, for goodness sakes, that are called domestic terrorists for going up and protesting in front of their school boards, as is their right to find out what the curriculum that their children are learning in these school districts. Yes, I think we're going to have some big issues come up, as we saw in Virginia this past year. And I think the American people all over this country are in the same frame of mind as those Virginians were that tossed out the Democratic Party in Virginia.
Congressman, you mentioned quite a few issues. There truly are many issues that are going to be on the ballot. In your state of Texas, there's another big race. You have incumbent Governor Greg Abbott against Beto O'Rourke. You mentioned illegal immigration. How much of a factor do you think the issue of illegal immigration is going to play in this year's midterms?
Huge in the state of Texas. It should be this way all over the entire country, quite frankly, because every state is now considered a border state. Every county is now considered a border county because of the influx of literally millions and millions of illegal aliens who have been invited in and enabled by this Biden administration, incentivized to come in. And no bigger friend, no other administration has ever helped or enriched or empowered the Mexican drug cartels the way Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden and Kamala Harris have done. They're making billions of dollars, creating really a nightmarish situation where nearly 900 illegal aliens have died trying to come across, 860 or so that have died trying to cross. We have 107,000 dead Americans from overdoses of drugs that have just poured across our border because we have enabled the Chinese to send in those ingredients to Mexico, who then mix them up, even in putting rainbow colors into their fentanyl pills to make them to be unattracted to children, to young people. And that's why I think we've got the main cause of death for people between the ages of 18 and 45 years old. I think 48 years old is drug overdoses, and it's coming directly from China and Mexico, and they're enriching themselves at the cost of the American people.
Congressman Brian Babin, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The battleground state of Arizona has a mixed group of voters, but their take on modern-day politics is similar. NTD's Melina Wisecup caught up with some of those voters in the Grand Canyon state. Here's a look.
Talking to voters in Arizona's state capital is a wild card. Even in the urban area of Phoenix, we met a variety of voters from each party.
Yeah, the economy is an issue. Inflation. Eggs shouldn't be $3.50. Gas shouldn't be where it's at.
Do you think that the Biden administration has done enough to tame inflation? You have trust that after a while it'll be able to calm down?
Listen, we all know, I think they're doing the best they can. We all know not one administration ever carries all the weight for any of the challenges we have.
While there are various opinions around these policies, one area that many voters do have in common is that they say the polarization in politics has gone too far.
I think things are getting really polarized, so really kind of concerned about that.
I don't think there's enough of the two candidates talking about the issues. I don't think Kelly's running on anything more than just he's not Blake Masters. If you're going to just make the whole campaign be, well, I'm not the other guy, I think that's just immature voting and immature campaigning.
Democrats overall didn't seem too enthused about Biden's record, and Republicans didn't seem to care too much about Trump's endorsements. On both sides of the coin, enthusiasm is lacking.
There's so much corruption, I don't think that my vote would matter.
The issues we've had, both sides of the political spectrum, people are just exhausted and tired. And really the interest is almost not there anymore.
I think both parties are in a relative decline. They've lost really the trust of the American people in general.
Many voters called on candidates to focus more on policy issues, while others say the media should do better at reporting accurately.
I don't think there's an easy answer to that. There's just been so much stuff that comes out that's false, and so much stuff just thrown out there and hoping something sticks that we need to go back to maybe a little bit more traditional reporting.
So far, just around 400,000 voters have cast ballots in early voting, which is just a fraction of the 4 million who've registered. Reporting in Phoenix, Arizona, Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
And the race for New York governor is getting tighter in the historically blue state. To discuss her own race as well as New York's gubernatorial contest, we're happy to have New York Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Great to be on.
Congresswoman, New York's race for governor is all of a sudden attracting a lot of attention, with Republican Lee Zeldin rising in the polls over incumbent Kathy Hochul. In order to win, will Zeldin need the vote from the city? And what are some of the issues you think are resonating with people in New York City specifically?
Well, of course, he needs some of the New York City vote. It's a huge city, the largest city in the state. But I think that they've got that all figured out with a calculus of what percentage needs to come out of New York City and what type of percentage he needs out of upstate to counter that. But look, I've been going door to door. I've been going to a lot of events, doing farm visits, small business tours, community events, visiting community action agencies, all those places that are recipients of federal funding, and people I need to meet who are going to be stakeholders and people that are going to be part of this new district, potentially, should I win on November 8th. But the number one issue, no matter where I go, I keep hearing about, obviously, it's the price of gasoline, fuel, heating oil, propane, energy costs. Inflation is enormous. I keep hearing about that repeatedly, and crime. Those are the top issues. The economic issue, related to energy and cost of groceries, cost of everything, crime. And, those are what I hear just over and over. I hear a crime story at almost every event. I hear how much everything costs. When you go and meet with people, seniors are very concerned on fixed incomes, and then as you move into other issues in my district in particular, Second Amendment issues are huge because we had this historic win this year on the Second Amendment rights with the concealed carry bill, the concealed carry case that went all the way to the Supreme Court, which gave us full restoration of our Second Amendment rights here in New York. Unique case based out of New York, and then Kathy Hochul only days later turned to eviscerate the rights and even put forth a bill worse than what Andrew Cuomo put forth in the SAFE Act back in 2013. But those are huge issues that I just hear about over and over from this new district, and it's the same thing all over New York. Crime is an issue because of the policies that come from Albany. It isn't a New York City exclusive issue. It is a statewide issue because the police now do not have the tools they need to keep our streets safe and to keep people safe in their communities, which is a priority of government. And people are really starting to notice it. It's not just the city.
Well, to your point, last night, again, the Governor Hochul and Congressman Zeldin had a debate. I'd like to get your reaction to something the congressman said in last night's debate.
For me, you asked me, why does New York lead the entire nation in population loss? Because their wallets, their safety, their freedom, and their quality of their kids' education are under attack. So they're hitting their breaking point. They're looking at other states like the Carolinas, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, and elsewhere, and they feel like their money will go further, they'll feel safer, and they'll live life freer.
Your reaction?
That's exactly what I hear every single day. That's what I hear from friends, family members, constituents, people across New York. It's why we lead the nation in outmigration. It's why people are leaving. They feel so exasperated with the authoritarian government that we have in Albany under Kathy Hochul, who, by the way, it's really hard for me to say this, but Kathy Hochul is actually worse than Cuomo. She's less competent, she's more authoritarian, and she will not ever say no to the far left. Cuomo, every once in a while, as much as I disliked a lot of things about him personally, a lot of the policies, I think big mistakes that he made, there were times when he could veto some of the far left policies coming out of New York City. Kathy Hochul refuses to say no to the far left authoritarian communists who are taking over our country. The Democratic Socialists of America dominate the state legislature, and she can't say no to them. And it's striking because she is someone from upstate New York, from Buffalo area. And so people are very concerned. And I hear from people all the time, the scariest thing that could happen is if Kathy Hochul wins. What do? I'll have to close my business. I'll have to leave New York. I'll have to leave my family. I'll have to set up somewhere else. And I hear that over and over and over again. And there's proof. I mean, look at the evidence. We have seen the largest outmigration again of people, of jobs, of our manufacturing sector. Everything we've tried to do to bring it back so far has not been successful. And it's all because of Albany's policies.
New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And John Fetterman's campaign said they raised more than $1 million last night. Those contributions came during the 3 hours after the debate. And the federal government has been hearing a lot from passengers who are fed up with their airlines. The U.S. Department of Transportation reports it saw a spike in airline complaints in August. The summer months were marked by flight cancellations and delays. According to the department's data, it received more than 7,000 complaints from flyers, 320% more complaints than it received before the pandemic. Much of those complaints dealt with cancellations, delays, or other concerns about the airline's schedules. Delta Airlines received top marks for the most flights arriving on time, followed by Alaska Airlines and Spirit airlines. At the same time, United Airlines topped the list for canceled flights in August, with American Airlines close behind, followed by Southwest in the number 3 spot. And that's all we have for you this evening on the Capitol Report. Thank you for watching. From the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., I'm Steve Lance. Have a nice evening, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.